I beg to move that motion captured as item 21 on today's order paper be moved now. Mr. Speaker, the motion reads that this Honorable House constitutes a bipartisan parliamentary committee chaired by a member of the Minority Caucus to inquire into the expenditures made by the Ghana government in relation to COVID-19 since the outbreak of the pandemic in 2020. So, Speaker, this motion has become necessary as a result of the fact that, Speaker, one, in the year 2020, the government of the day called upon us to approve, for the purposes of COVID-19 expenditure, an amount of 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. Speaker, in that motion, in that expenditure, the government said that they wanted us as Parliament to approve for their use for the purposes of what he called the Coronavirus Alleviation Program 1, an amount of 1.2 billion. So, Speaker, that is what this august House was made to approve. But in the media review that was presented to us, the Speaker, clearly this government spent an amount of 8,122 million Ghana cedis. The Speaker, this clearly means that out of the 1.2 billion Ghana cedis that was approved by all of us, the government went ahead to spend additional 7 billion Ghana cedis for the purposes of COVID-19 expenditures. The Speaker, it will interest you to note that even the amount of 1.2 billion that was approved for the government to spend, the government needed to come back to us as Finance Committee and obviously as a House by giving us the expenditure breakdown of the 1.2 billion that we approved. The Speaker, though they spent 1.2 billion Ghana, 8.1 billion Ghana cedis, the government is yet to present a detailed expenditure returns to this august House. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, I am of the view that this is critical, that this House invite or set up a committee by inviting all sector ministers who were given the opportunity to spend an amount for the purposes of COVID-19 expenditure. Mr. Speaker, my point is that we cannot...
Just a minute. Deputy Majority Leader, you are on your feet.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, I rise to raise a preliminary legal objection to the text and content of the motion before this House. That, Mr. Speaker, this motion in the list is odious, it lacks merit, and it is not founded on one of the tools available to a member of Parliament.
Honorable Deputy Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Allow the motion to be placed before the House. Then you now raise your preliminary objection. What you are doing is premature ejaculation. When the House is now seized with the motion, before it's seconded, then you raise preliminary objection. As of now, the House is not seized with the motion. So may you hold your gun.
Mr. Speaker, as you may be well aware, we shall continue to learn at your feet. So, Mr. Speaker, if I got your order correctly, that the preliminary legal objection can only be raised after he's moved his motion, but before it is seconded. I agree with you. Thank you. I'll take a cue.
Out to force. Mr. Speaker, my point is that yes, Parliament approved some amount for the purposes of COVID expenditure. I mean, Mr. Speaker, we approved 1.2 billion. In the end, in the year 2020, an amount of 8.1 billion was spent. Mr. Speaker, in the first half of the year 2021, an additional 114 million Ghana cedis was spent. So, Speaker, in the second half of the year 2021, we do not have the details as to how much has been spent for the purposes of COVID-19 expenditure. So, Speaker, it is for the same reason that I'm asking this House that the power of the purse, the oversight on the financial matters is with us. So, Speaker, that is why I am calling on this House to be given opportunity so that we can have the chance to evaluate the amount that was spent for COVID-19. So, Speaker, today we are talking of the COVID-19 expenditure. Ghana is not a standalone. A number of countries has initiated probes into how much that money was used for, how much was spent and what it was used for. It is for the same reason that, Mr. Speaker, I'm calling on you, Mr. Speaker, to admit that this august House be given an opportunity to investigate or probe the amount that was spent. Speaker, I believe that 8.1 billion Ghana cedis spent for the purposes of COVID-19 is a bit too much. And the details as was given to us in the budget statement, the media review, page 100 of the media review. So, Speaker, the media review tells us that, 1, they spent an amount of 1 billion and 55 million Ghana cedis being support to households. Again, they spent an amount of 1 billion and 49 million Ghana cedis as health response for the purposes of supplies, equipment, and relief for health workers. Speaker, again, we were told that health infrastructure alone, an amount of 600 million Ghana cedis was spent. In the same budget statement, we were told that security operations, evacuation, and coordination, they spent an amount of 875 million Ghana cedis. Speaker, again, other COVID-19 related expenditures, including economic relief, stabilization, and revitalization, they spent an amount of 3.6 billion Ghana cedis. Speaker, finally, we were told that COVID-19 complementary releases, they spent an amount of 401 million Ghana cedis. In all, in the year 2020 alone, 8.1 billion cedis was spent. Speaker, that is why we members of this House believe that we cannot rely on the minister responsible for finance alone to account for the use of the COVID-19 expenditure. These expenditures were spent at the sectors. Various ministries spend this money. And so, Mr. Speaker, it is important for us to have a committee that will be able to look at the expenditures for COVID-19. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
I've been invited to rule on the preliminary objection raised by the Deputy Majority Leader. If I understand the preliminary objection correctly, it seems to suggest that the motion ought not have been admitted. Therefore, it questions the propriety of the motion before the House. And in presenting the preliminary objection, the honourable member draws the House's attention to the constitutional imperatives. Now, let me start by looking at the motion itself. The motion before the House is numbered item 21, and it reads that this Honourable House constitutes a bipartisan parliamentary committee chaired by a member of the Minority Caucus to inquire into the expenditures made by Ghana government in relation to COVID-19 since the outbreak of the pandemic in the year 2020. So, I would have thought that for a bipartisan committee, or by whatever name we call it, we will be referring to Order 191, a special or ad hoc committees, since the bipartisan committee is neither a select committee or a standing committee. So let me read Order 191 for our guidance. The House may at any time, by motion, appoint special or ad hoc committee to investigate any matter of public importance, to consider any bill that does not come under the jurisdiction of any of the standing or select committees of the House. A matter of public importance or a bill which does not come under the jurisdiction of any of the standing or select committees of the House. And I think that should be the guiding principle. The matters that we are called upon to set a committee to investigate, can we say they do not come under any of the select or standing committees of the House? In my view, it falls squarely within the Public Accounts Committee. And indeed, all the committees of the House, including the Public Accounts Committee, are bipartisan. And the Public Accounts Committee, by nature, is designed to be chaired by the minority. So in all its forms, and all the questions related to the Public Accounts Committee, if it is minded to investigate anything related to the COVID expenditure, it's fully seized with the authority and the power to investigate that, particularly because all the accounting of it have been provided for in the budget, which budget has been presented before the House, and it is before the committee anyway. My view is that this motion ought not to have been admitted and is improperly before the House. I so rule.